Anthony and Alex Talk Stuff. Our 20 for 20 series continues with this episode, taking a look at the Shield. Everyone's favorite, Roman Reigns. Big fan of this podcast, and our favorite, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. Known as the Shield, pretty dominant group, the most dominant group in history, as WWE likes to brand them now. Broke up several years back, and it it set all three guys into motion to where they are now and launched them into their trajectories. And so we're going to be taking a peek at that and kind of looking at if it was good or bad, I guess, overall from our standpoint, from their standpoint. It's tough for me. I think it had more legs to it. That's a phrasing you used, Alex. And I think it had more legs. I thought they could have got more burn out of the Shield run. But considering where it led all of them to and the success that they've had individually, I think it's been pretty good overall. I mean, minus the fact of where we are now with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're trying to say, was the initial breakup, like, good or bad, really? And I don't know. I think it's good that they ended up, obviously that's what you do. Like, when you have a group or even like a tag team, the whole basically goal of it is to shoot one guy. Typically, it's to shoot one guy off to become like a star. You know,
Michaels
like
and Jannetty.
Exactly. Michaels and Jannetty. It's how everything's happened. You know, it's what they try to, for bad example, it's what they try to do with like Enzo and Cass or like just, you know, basically not every tag team, not Demolition or anything like that or Legion of Doom.
Well,
but
Crush was decent. He had that match against Doink at WrestleMania 9, big time.
Yeah, but that's when Demolition went to 3. That was not real Demolition.
You love Demolition.
Yes, I do. That's not Axe and the Smasher, okay?
You love Demolition.
That's different.
It's just funny because I would never peg you as like, who do you love, Demolition? I would just never guess that.
Yeah, Demolition's
Why do you love Demolition?
Demolition's like my favorite tag team.
Why?
I just really, I don't know. I guess it was just like growing up. I don't know. They're like, it's like nostalgia-ish to me. I don't know. I wasn't so during that period. I don't know. There was just like a lot of good tag teams, and they were just like on top as like a heel tag team with like a cheating manager, and they had the belts for like a whole year kind of thing. And
you like them more than Legion of Doom?
Well, they're in my mind, I didn't even know about the Road Warriors before all this. I thought like the Road Warriors were a copy of Demolition.
Oh,
because I grew up in New York, so like we just get
Vince's territory.
Yeah, we just get all like WWF. So I didn't even know about other territories. So it's just like, you know,
that's fair.
It is what it is.
I guess when you look back on to that point, like groups and tag teams and everybody that's been split up to try and launch one guy, like the Rockers are a tag team, or the Hart Foundation are just a tag team. But the way like you look at it, like Bret Hart took off and Neidhart just kind of fell off. Michaels took off. Jannetty was kind of whatever. The Shield, I mean, Ambrose, Rollins, and Reigns are both 3 legitimate guys. They've all held major belts. They all get significant TV time. I guess for them individually and like their runs, it's definitely been good. They've all 3 of them have been successful.
No, I mean it's worked. Like what they try to do. Like I don't remember them ever trying to do something like this where they try to get all 3 guys over.
No.
But to me, it has worked. I mean, obviously, the whole plan as it came down was it became focused around Roman, really. But the other guys still are like completely viable. Like Seth Rollins is like arguably one of the best wrestlers like in the world, and like got himself over, and like he was the architect, the one who spurred the turn, and so then he became the corporate champion, and I thought he did great in that role. I thought
he made me hate the shit out of him. I hated him.
Yeah, man, I thought he was like, as far as like holding the belt for like a while and like actual runs and stuff like that, I feel like he's had like the best run I could think of like in recent history, like that I can actually remember somebody with the belt and stuff before, obviously he blew out his knee in that
I
with that injury bug.
recognize that. Yeah, that was gruesome. I recognize the success that they've all individually had. Rollins and Ambrose and Reigns. I feel, and it's good for them. For myself, and I'm going to say a majority of the fan base, I'm just going to speak for myself, whatever. I'm going to lean towards saying that their breakup was bad because of where we are right now with Roman Reigns. And the breaking up of the Shield was all designed. This whole thing has been one giant plan to get Roman to be where he is, and nothing is sacred. Everyone and everything, storylines, people, gimmicks have all been fed to Reigns, and not to beat that dead horse or be that guy that's like, oh, Reigns sucks or this and that. Like that, the state of that booking, I just cannot stand. I mean, I also think that, as I mentioned in the lead-in, I thought the Shield had more time to stay together. I didn't think they had to be broken up then, which I guess maybe that makes it a good breakup, like that unexpected.
Right. Before it's ready. Yeah. I mean, before it's like, oh wow, this is over.
Before you
over the yeah, exactly. Before it's like over the hill or whatever.
And that was
I just didn't know what they were gonna really do. I mean, because they were doing, really they were doing these kind of marquee 3-way matches, which were like awesome. I mean, I thought they had a really good thing. With the Wyatts, they had a really good thing with Evolution when they were doing those things, but it was just like, you can't just create 3-man teams that easily, and what are you kind of gonna do? I know it's funny because in the beginning they actually gave like Dean the US title, and they like never defended it or whatever it was.
Correct.
And then they had like Roman and Seth as like a tag team, and like that's kind of what they were doing. So that's how they like split it up from the monotony of just doing 3-mans. But I think you can only get so many legs when you have 3 guys. It's like you can't put them all.
It's awkward
unless you do like a New Day where you have like a rotating tag team, and that's just a rotating tag team like the Freebirds. Like it's not really like, oh, we're gonna do 3-men all the time. They just they're a tag team, but they can swap in and out at will. Which that can go on for a bit. But,
and I guess when they fed everybody to them as they did, like in them coming out on top versus Evolution, it all comes like very, like, well, I guess like who else can you feed to them? So I guess maybe it didn't have as much legs. But I can't. This Roman Reigns booking that we have now is just so god awful. Like everything for me circles back to that. Like again, everybody who's even Braun now, who was so over and was the hottest thing in the company, like they're sacrificing him and trying to turn him heel and sacrificing his dominance just so they can again put Reigns over. Like, so the fact that we broke up the Shield to lead us to where we are now, that's why I lean towards bad, because I just can't stand the booking and where it is now. Also,
I guess, but there's like thousands of decisions that happen between.
But
like,
they even sacrifice these Shield reunions for the sake of Roman. Like, I recognize that Reigns got hurt the first time or suspended or whatever, and they had to substitute Angle in, so it was kind of fizzled out, and they like put that to the side. But they brought it back again now. It doesn't make any sense, and I guess it doesn't have to, because like storylines don't matter to WWE. But the fact that they literally just brought back the Shield to give the rub to Roman, like I always thought when they broke up the Shield, like my first thought was like, oh man, when they finally reunite again, it's going to be so impactful. Or when they finally have that triple threat for the title or something, like it's going to be so impactful. And I guess that can still happen. But they've kept like watering. I feel like they've watered it down by using it for Roman and using it to book Roman and attaching it to Roman and bringing it back more than once. Like it disappoints me.
Well, what they should have done, and what I've always kind of been saying is like, instead of these, all these Roman Brock like WrestleManias or matches
Roman
in general.
and Brock fought at WrestleMania?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't know if that
but one of these should have been broken up by
Shield triple threat.
By the Shield triple threat, and it could easily have been the one after. I guess it would have been 32. I'm not
The
sure.
one after Roman and Brock fought for the 7th consecutive Mania.
No, 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 no. The one after. They stopped doing the Roman numerals, so then you didn't really know because now they're just doing a symbol. It was the
That's
one that
weird.
looked. It was the one in San Francisco where
Where he fought
Seth
Triple
won.
H? Oh, where he fought Brock for the first time.
Yeah, he fought Brock for the first time, and then Seth won. So now at least Seth has the belt, but then Seth gets hurt before he can retain, right? So, I don't know. Maybe that's the way they were going with it. I'm not sure because Seth never defended that, and
Yeah, that could have been like the long term.
I mean that could have been
Plan.
it. Yeah, man, that could have been like it, right? Because it deserved like not kind of these, in and out like comebacks or not comebacks or they're just all teaming up to do a triple power bomb. Remember how they used to do that kind of thing?
Yes.
Like it could have, and it was still like fresher in people's minds. But
I think about
it could have been the marquee like triple threat for the belt like once and for all kind of thing.
The Shield was still super over.
If they wanted to crown like Roman at that point, it would have just been different than the kind of malaise that went on a little bit afterwards, just because of the repeating of matches.
Yes.
In the same spots. Like it's like, okay, this again, this again, this again. And it's like you didn't even get that with Hogan, really. I mean, it's not like he always went against whatever the new bad was, but at least
whichever country we had a problem with.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't have to see him like face one man gang at like 4 straight WrestleManias or whatever the hell.
And I think of, you mentioned the Shield, the triple power bomb, and I don't remember what pay-per-view it was, but they were all in like a giant match for the title, and they triple power bombed somebody, and Rollins was still a heel, and like they triple power bombed the guy, and the crowd popped huge, and then like Rollins put his fist in like yeah, and then Ambrose and Reigns like looked at each other and then looked at Rollins and went and like beat the crap out of Rollins. But like the pop for that was huge, and there was just so much. I feel like I look at it overall as bad, I guess, because from like a fantasy booking perspective, like when they introduced, I guess it's just me in general though, with like not liking WWE's booking, but like when AJ and Anderson and Gallows came in and Balor, like anything like that, like, and they did the whole club thing, we're clearly ripping off Bullet Club, and with how hot Bullet Club is, the first thing I thought of was, oh my god, let the club, I hate saying that, I'm not saying that for the rest of this episode, let them kind of like run roughshod over the roster, take over some stuff, do this or that, let the Shield like reunite to have to take down somebody, to have to do something.
That would be good. That would make sense. That would make more sense.
And you could have done it. There was just so many better iterations and versions of what they could have done than what they did. And I know but again, this 20 for 20 series, we're looking at things in hindsight. That was my perfect thing. It didn't have to be Bullet Club. It could have been somebody else. But bring them back to reunite against somebody. Even with this Braun situation, like flip it in reverse. You could still stay with Ziggler and McIntyre. I would rather it be Bray and Harper, so it's actual like Wyatt family stuff. But have Braun recruit them two to help him beat the shit out of Reigns, and then Ambrose and Rollins come back to like help him out and even the odds. I still wouldn't love that, but that makes more sense than Braun about to cash in on Roman and Rollins and Ambrose coming out, which is ironic considering Ambrose cashed in on Rollins and considering Rollins cashed in to win the belt. So like you guys are stopping somebody from doing something you did and acting like it's bad. Like even that they could have role reversed there, but there should have been some faction or group or thing that made them have to come together. And they could have even teased it and made it super obvious for like weeks, which is definitely how they would have done it, where like they would have shown backstage segments where like Rollins and Ambrose and Reigns would have talked to each other and been like, hey man, this is really bad, or hey, like they could have telegraphed the shit out of it. I don't care. But the fact that they had to bring them back to get Roman over, which still isn't working because he's getting booed like crazy, and the pops aren't like the first time they came through the crowd a couple weeks ago, that pop should have been huge, and it just wasn't. And I recognize it's launched their careers. Rollins, like you mentioned, is one of the best overall performers on the planet, in ring and mic work, everything. Despite the injury, he's battled through and done so much. The belts that he's had, his track record speaks for itself. Ambrose has been successful. Reigns is obviously our fearless leader and hero. So I recognize that it's good, but from my perspective, to be selfish and to be like just a fan, even though I appreciate everything that they've done, I just think it could have been done. And I guess you could say this with anything, but it could have been done so much better. And it hurts me to know that the Shield is now being used as like a ploy to give Roman cheers. Like, that sucks.
I guess I'm kind of just looking at it like, I think in the moment it was good. Even when it was happening, I was like, okay, this is good. Because not that it was one, because you remember they were like teasing it for like a while, but then they didn't do it. Like, I remember they teased it maybe like once or twice about like, you know, somebody's giving somebody a little side eye, or they're having some issues here and there, and then
well, see, this is what's funny. What I was gonna say about this, I stopped watching. No, this is what I was gonna say. I stopped watching WWE when like Cena became the guy because I thought he sucked. I started getting into TNA a lot, Ring of Honor, all that stuff. That's when I discovered like the sport of wrestling. And I came back. I watched randomly, like I got lucky, and like one random Raw that I watched happened to be the Pipe Bomb episode, and I'd known CM Punk from Ring of Honor, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I followed it a couple like for months with that when he, you know, beat Cena and then came back and this and that. But I really wasn't watching regularly, and I turned on one random Raw and saw the Shield come out through the crowd. They came to the ring. I don't remember who they beat up. I think they beat up Ryback or did something. But I noticed Rollins as Tyler Black. I was like, oh, it's Tyler Black. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Still wasn't really watching regularly. And then I started watching the day after Mania where Brock beat Taker. Because I was like, oh, shit, like Taker's streak ended. I was talking with somebody at work about it. And then I was like, oh, how's wrestling going, this and that. And they were talking about the Shield and how cool the Shield was. And that's when the Shield just started to turn face. I think they had the problem with Kane. They beat up Kane. They were turning face. They started in the Evolution thing. So I got into the Shield and like right when they were like doing sweet. And I was like, oh, the Shield is kind of cool. And I remember Tyler Black. This is sweet. And then boom, he like hit Reigns with that chair. And I was like, oh, you just broke up like the one thing that made me come back.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I was away for a bit too, but I had come back when they had it in MetLife for that, I guess the Rock Cena second time around.
The one when Punk fought Taker?
Yes, Punk fought Taker, Cena and Rock second time around, and that was the Shield's first WrestleMania.
Oh, okay.
So
they fought the Wyatts?
What was that? Was that 29?
Oh, dude, I'm terrible with the numbers.
It was, it was definitely 29 because you're talking about 30. Because that's when Taker. That was in like New Orleans when Brock beat him.
Oh no, they won at WrestleMania 29.
Yeah, of course they won. I mean, duh.
What'd they beat though? God, their debut, they looked so. I mean, they still kind of look cool, but when they originally debuted, and they had those long sleeve shirts and everything was like rolled up. They just didn't look like great.
No, dude, the turtlenecks, no way, bro.
No, whoever made the call with like the Riot Shield vest, like good call there. Yeah, the turtlenecks with the rolled up sleeves are not good.
Dude, they just gave him like Steve Jobs' old outfit and said, roll yourself out there.
You guys are gonna be like tough guy Steve Jobs.
So
that's the.
They were in a random 6-man against Orton, Sheamus, and Ryback.
At a Mania?
At a Mania,
What was the storyline behind this? Just because?
Oh, it was like a just because kind of like, let's team up. We can finally take these guys out kind of deal.
And the Shield were bad guys, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But super over. Like.
Oh, so they were getting cheers even though they were bad guys.
Yeah, they were over against them for sure.
Okay.
You know, they're coming through the. I mean, the whole gimmick is like a face. Like they come through the crowd.
Bad guys don't come through the crowd. That's a fucking good guy. The Sandman comes through the fucking crowd. He's never
exactly. Like, come on, man.
Nobody else really ever came through the crowd, right? Sting came from the rafters, but that's not crowd.
People like leave through the crowd as a thing.
No, but who had a regular? What? Any other people? Anybody else have regular entrances through the crowd other than the Sandman and the Shield?
There's got to be people. There's definitely got to be people in like
Coco
the
beware.
80s or something, but not like I wouldn't say anybody like of like
Oh,
note,
oh, okay,
um, like that did it really consistently. But there's got to be somebody obviously out there.
yeah.
Um,
So they beat
so
they beat them at Mania.
right. So they came back, and that's kind of when I got back into it because I was like, oh crap, Mania's at MetLife. That's
That's
cool.
pretty
I had a
sweet.
lot of friends going at or whatever, and like I didn't go. I was just like, oh, that's cool. I'll check it out, blah blah blah. And that's kind of how I guess waded back into it. I was like, oh shit, CM Punk's back. Like,
Oh, look at this guy.
oh my god, wait, The Rock is still wrestling? What the hell's going on?
Is this 2002?
Yeah, exactly. So
So
no,
they
no,
had a
that was
sweet
like
run.
no,
That
it
was
was
a good
great. No,
time.
they obviously had an awesome run, and like they all had like different things going on. And I guess to your points, like you're saying, like well, they could have had some more legs, they could have done a couple more things, and that's true. But I don't mind that they broke them up a little early rather than a little late. And they all went on to do good things single wise. And I'm not going to hold the storyline of like 4 years down the road against, I guess, what happened on that Raw. I guess like
No,
I just
I
think in the
realize I'm
moment it
being like
was
short
good.
sighted.
I think like in the moment it was like it was actually good. Like even when I remember watching it and I'm like, okay, no, that's good because what they had done right before that, and I guess you weren't like watching consistently, is like they kept like sort of like halfway teasing it, but like not, and it wasn't like a big lead into it or anything.
I
It was just
remember
like
hearing from
it was
people at
almost
the
like a
time.
start and stop. Like you were like, okay, this is gonna keep going. Like you build on like something from week to week to
Didn't
week,
people think
but they
Ambrose
would
was going to be the one to turn?
right, but it was like they would do something maybe for 2 weeks and then completely stop it, and then they'd be friends for like 3 weeks,
Oh, okay.
and then so it wasn't really like a building on itself like long play. It was sort of like more like a start and stop. So actually, when Seth did that, it was kind of like surprising. Also, it was surprising because at the time he was like the odd man out, really, because Roman was the most popular with the ooh ah and the
Yes.
spear and whatever. And then Dean, they had put the U.S. title on him originally, and he was like kind of the he had the mic more so when they were doing
And he
stuff.
was
And
and his looking character was like the textbook choice for like, oh, he's the one who's going to do something nuts and break up the group.
right, exactly. So he was like at the forefront because Seth had like the dueling hair and stuff like that, and
They weren't
he was like the
labeling
workhorse. But
Seth as the architect when he was with the Shield,
no,
right?
no,
Like
that
that
was
was
not.
purely after when they
That
were
was
like,
after.
okay,
That was,
I figured they were just using that to like get him over. I didn't, but because I wasn't like into it out, they never. I don't. Yeah, I didn't remember them giving him credit and being like, oh, well, he's the one who created the Shield. Like, I was like, oh, okay,
yeah, they didn't really. If they said that, I mean, if that was the case,
it
they
wasn't me.
didn't harp on it whatsoever. It was just like Seth. You could just tell he was like kind of the worker and kind of doing the spots. If there was spots to be had in the match and stuff like that. But I mean, I felt like that made him like now he's like, oh, he broke it up on himself. He's the architect. Now he's the corporate champion. Now he's got money in the bank or whatever. It's like I don't know, and he did well with all
Oh,
those
definitely.
facets.
They used
So
that to launch him into a whole
yeah,
new he definitely, that's even a good way to look at it too. Like in the Shield, he was, even though the Shield was super over, he definitely wasn't like the guy or like the focal point, and he's been launched into another stratosphere with where he is now. So that's definitely, and I recognize, again, we're basically in agreement here. Like I recognize for all of them individually and for where they are now, like it's definitely been a success and has been positive in every way. But being selfish and being like what could have been or what they could have done, I guess it's really, my main thing is really just where it led to now. Like I can't believe they're using it as basically like fodder for Roman Reigns. Like they're using the Shield to get Reigns over, and the inconsistency with it. I really just thought they would reunite. It's my own fault. You and I did the same thing when we were leading up to Mania. We were talking about like all these cool things that Undertaker could do to come back, and like all these neat things that he had never done before, or if he came back as Biker Taker, all these like cool possibilities. And when you book like that with yourself, you set yourself up for failure. And I just can't help but see, and even though I know I'm setting myself up for failure, as we do, I just can't help but like they should have reunited for something bigger, or they break up and Bray Wyatt, who I love, give Bray Wyatt like let him run roughshod. Somebody do something. That would have even been cooler because people know that the Shield and the Wyatts had a rivalry and had a problem with each other earlier. So like imagine if the Shield had to reunite to stop the Wyatts. Like something cool like that. Something momentous that they would have had, especially if they built it right, like, and the Wyatts or Bullet Club are in the ring and talking shit or doing something, and then you hear the Sierra Hotel, like, you hear that, they come out through the crowd, they do their thing, like, oh, that would have been so awesome. And I also think of it too, maybe if they don't break them up when they do, I mean, the plan is still probably to get Reigns over, but maybe they don't book him the way they do, maybe, potentially, because that's just bad for everybody, even though it's obviously not because they're making billions and billions of dollars. But yeah, it was good, but it just makes me sad at the same time.
All right, well, I think it was good, so I'm just going to stick with that.
I agree. I'm just probably being a crybaby.
Thanks for listening to our 4th episode on our 20 for 20 series. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a review on iTunes. The link will be in the show notes. Follow us on Instagram at AA Talk Stuff. Also on Twitter and Facebook. Follow us there. If you have any questions or any show ideas, email us at aatalkstuff@gmail.com. And we'll catch you next week.